Hello, everybody. Just before we begin this week's show, I want to just take a moment to mention our spring survey, which you can find at update.rsbnb.com/survey. We do this survey about every year, and we use it to gauge where our audience is at and where we want to go with the show the next 6 to 12 months. So if you would fill that out, we'd be greatly appreciated. You can find that at update.rsbnb.com/survey and enjoy the show. This week on RSBANDB Update, your hottest RuneScape news, including incense burners that refresh the fire-making skills with benefits for you from low to high level. Also, some quality of life changes to Fire Spirits and PvM, including next. Finally, thoughts on Q&A streams, plus the sticky situation for Apple and the EU. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 717, recorded Wednesday, March 27th, 2019. A sticky situation. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week is a very, let's just say, lit week with all the fire making that's happening. Joining Tanis and myself this week is Sirion. Welcome back to the show. I think this is the first time you've been on this year.
Yeah, it could have been, actually. I know there was around the end of the year. No, the special, wasn't that the first of the year?
No, that was at the end of the year. Okay. But anyways, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week, isn't it?
Yep, it's a pretty interesting week.
Tanis, how are you this week?
Doing all right, man.
Good.
Not too bad. Yeah, weather's back and forth, so dealing with sinus fun. You know how that is.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Well, this week is Firemaking week. It was initially supposed to be Combat PvM fixed week, but of course the Firemaking update was delayed 1 week. We'd much rather have an update come out when it's fully fleshed out and fully polished rather than having it not be ready and be rough around the edges. So I am perfectly okay with that. And of course, the update that we're talking about is incense burners and the Fire Spirits quality of life improvements. So incense burners, this was one of Mod Timbo's Game Jam projects, and we love these Mod Timbo updates, don't we?
Yeah, we really do.
So, unfortunately, I was when we first heard about this, I was very pushy that these incense burners not only use magic logs at the very high end, but they go all the way to elder logs. Unfortunately, the only ones to use magic logs in these incense burners is at the top two. And effectively what happens with these is you get some logs. So you get 2 logs, you craft them into incense sticks. Then you put some ashes on them, 2 ashes, and then you top it off with the herb. And lo and behold, you have a stick of incense that you can burn up to gain some neat special little side effects. So you get fire-making experience for crafting them, even though you're modifying wood, which is typically a fletching activity. Did anybody else find that a wee bit odd?
Yeah, I thought it was just odd that it's fire making altogether, because, other than lighting it, but that's cool, whatever.
No.
It makes sort of sense, because if they had to put it, if it gave fletching experience, it would have reasonably need to have a fletching level requirement.
Yeah.
And that sort of defeats the point.
And when you look at the definition of what fletching is to produce equipment that aids archers, so that makes sense from that regard, even though it uses fletching animations. Now, with all of these incense sticks, they start off by providing the benefit for 10 minutes. They can be further extended all the way up to 60 minutes by lighting more incense. And every 10 minutes that you have incense active, you gain an increase in the potency of the effect all the way from levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then there's actually the other option that if you want to overload on incense, you can consume 6 incense sticks, and that will take you to maximum potency straight away, and then that can still be extended as per usual. So,
was it just me, or did overload feel a bit like an overloaded term here.
Yes, overload exists in many places in game. So you are not wrong on that.
Like, it's a bit confusing with herb lore overloads. So
yeah, you're right. So let's talk a bit about some of the effects that these incenses offer, because I think that's one thing we were talking a lot about when this update first arrived. So starting off, I'm going to start with the Guam ones, because these ones actually seem relatively useful. And what high-level person has a use for Guam herbs in this day and age? So a Guam incense stick is made with, of course, the Guam herb, regular logs, and impious ashes. And with using the Guam incense, each potency level will give you a 10% chance to get an additional log while woodcutting regular trees. I find that one interesting, because I'm going to be going for 120 woodcutting sooner or later. Tarrowmen, each stick will provide a 25% chance to automatically bank ashes when you're burning logs. I don't know if there's anybody who does that, but
yeah,
okay.
Seems to be a throwaway.
Maybe if you train with like the pitch can.
Oh. But still, why would you need the ashes?
It's probably used for something, some potion.
It is used for Serum 207, which is what?
Well, to be honest, every single time I needed to make that, I needed to buy the ashes because I don't have ashes. So,
okay, all right.
And if you're like an Iron Man, you have to make your own ashes.
I don't know, man.
I think we're fishing for uses here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Firemaking update, not a fishing update.
Marintil reduces poison damage by 12.5% for each level of potency.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's half poison. That's half poison damage.
Right, but you can completely get rid of that if you use one of them super overloads that has the anti-poison baked into it. So.
Sure, but like, what's the level on these? Like, you have to
level 9.
Yeah, so you have to sort of imagine, like, you can use these at a level where you normally don't have access to most herb lore things.
Very nice, actually. That's actually a damn good way of looking at it. Herolander increases the run energy replenishment rate by 25% while resting.
Who vests?
I mean, it's hard to get around and hard to run if you don't have, high-level agility, because high-level agility does impact how quick your run rate recharges.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah, and I've noticed when you don't have access to all of the teleports you're really used to, you end up walking a lot more than you remembered. So.
Okay. Next up, Ranner, each potency level provides a +1 prayer bonus. That's interesting. I'm guessing what that means is that it's similar to if you were wearing a piece of equipment that had extra prayer bonuses on it, so it wouldn't allow your prayer to run down as fast. I'm guessing that's the way that one works, because I never tested that one.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Toad Flax. Each level of these sticks has a 12.5% chance to avoid failing an agility obstacle. That's, once again, good if you're training agility at low levels. Provides another use for Toad Flax. I think Toad Flax is perhaps the best herb in game right now with the Ceradomin brews and everything like that out there. So Toad Flax ain't going anywhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to need that, actually. I'm getting ready to do Morning's End Part 2 again. So, little Toad Flax go a long way.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. Spirit Weed, each of these has a 10%, provides a 10% increased familiar special attack recovery rate. Good for Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're casting Fruitfall for some reason, as we talked about in our bit, that can bring in a bit of money still, upwards of about 1.5 mil GP an hour, believe it or not. Irrit, each of these reduces poison damage by 25% for Irrit. So this is double what Marintil does. And this is at level 40.
Yeah.
So
at that point, I feel at that point anti-poison becomes more of a mainstream thing. So
yeah, but keep in mind though, that's a potion that you need to store in your bank or in your inventory. This has the potential to last for up to 60 minutes.
Fair enough. Good point.
And you can take it all the way up to 100%.
Yeah.
So extra wins on that front. Next up on this list here of interesting ones, Orgali. That's a herb I never grow. 0.5% chance per potency to produce a strung bow when fletching logs into unstrung bows. And I'm assuming you get the XP for that as well. So
I was about to say, you don't get the XP. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, because, who makes bows just for the hell of it in this day and age?
Iron Man.
Oh, okay. I guess that counts. The entire process of making you longbows and alchemizing them back in the day, that might be interesting. Avanto, 5% potency to automatically bait hunter traps.
Could be nice.
Yeah, so 1 in 5. And, if you ever want to go fight Grenwalls or something like that and you don't have the bait, you can at least go there with the satisfaction of that 1 in 5 will be baited for you. Quorum increases weapon poison damage, 2.5% per potency. Good for PvM, because I know in PvM everything is taken into account and even weapon poison is used, so that's good. Bloodweed, 2.5% chance per potency to get double logs when cutting bloodwood trees. So at maximum potency, that's 10%. This is a good one, too.
Do people actually use bloodwood?
Yes, because they're used to make some brand of arrows that I'm forgetting the name of right now.
But isn't it Bacrimial bolts or something like that?
Yes, that's it. And you need the sticks, right?
Yeah, you need the sticks.
So
you get the incense sticks to get the other sticks. Makes sense.
Boy,
sticky situation.
Yeah, who knew that? Who knew that? 18 years into RuneScape, we'd still be talking about sticks and things being sticky. So, all right. Snapdragon, 50% stat restore rate per potency, and I'm assuming this is base level. So. I don't see much use for this one. Do you guys?
Mm-mm. No.
Not really.
Cadentine, 2.5% potency to not exhaust a resource, trees. So combine this with the Guam one, and you got some pretty interesting stuff going on for woodcutting.
Mm-hmm.
I like that
There's
one.
a few other effects that might synergize with.
Oh?
No, don't ask me which ones. I just know they exist.
Okay.
I don't know where, but I know they exist.
All right.
Maybe isn't it one of the 7 spells?
And I think the Lumberjack aura, maybe.
Yeah, like Lumberjack aura,
and one of the perks on the on that you can put on your little wood choppy thing.
Oh yeah, gizmos.
Yes.
One of the gizmo.
Yeah.
Figs, yeah.
So some nice synergy on Cadentine. Lantademy plus 30 seconds on potion timers per potency. So that gives us a maximum of plus 2 minutes.
Which is significant if you consider how expensive high-level potions are.
Yeah, that's a damn good one as well. Dwarfweed, 2% per potency to bank dropped or gathered items. So basically a free porter with 4% chance of rolling.
I mean, if you already use porters, it's a nice way of...
It's a nice way of and kind of saving on them and just adding to it. So
yeah,
it's a supplemental.
Does that work with the Grace of the Elves, I wonder? Like when the teleporters are in there.
I don't.
This should do.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. So,
Okay.
It would probably just save you a porter chance. Dwarf or Torstal 0.5% base XP per potency for a total of 2% XP gain. So once again, not that much, but on a double XP weekend or just trying to train a lot, that one's gonna make a huge difference. And Fellstock 1% chance per potency to spawn elite NPCs.
I was a bit surprised by that one because, like, I don't really care usually.
Does anybody know anyone who cares about elite NPC spawning?
No, but I mean, Hex Hunter is still probably worth some money, you know.
Oh, right.
I don't know if the boots are still doing all right, but probably, you know, for the rune dragons. There's a few, you know, Edemus. There's a few things that this actually might help a lot if you're
Hex Hunter bow 136 mil.
Yeah. So.
Let's see. Yeah, dropped by Soul Gazers. So. And you need the elite one to spawn in order to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be one way of doing it there. All right. So there are some unique cases for that one. And every time you're getting a kill, plus 4% is actually going to be pretty good. So looking at all of these, which ones are your guys' favorites?
XP.
Okay.
To me. More.
I am always a bit annoyed by these sort of by these low XP boosts, right? Because people feel it as such a must. They want to get like every last bit of XP out of their actions, and it always feels a bit like an obsession with it. So I'm not a big fan. It also feels it's not interesting. Just a raw XP boost. It's like it's much more interesting to have something like the one that doesn't deplete a resource. Like that also will boost your training, but in a less direct way and makes it more interesting. So, yeah, I like the ones that are a bit more out there, maybe a bit more niche, but less straightforward. Actually, is good in this case, I think.
Yeah, and you know, just to give a bit of background on this, on day one, after the initial rush died down, the Torstal sticks were selling for about 10k each, and that's more than it cost to produce the herbs, or produce the herb, produce the ashes, because those are actually selling for under market, believe it or not. The infernal ashes were selling for under market, and magic logs are, of course, abundant. So,
yeah, the impious though. Oof.
Yeah, I guess there's a reason to kill imps. I mean,
yeah, that was nuts. Pyre fiends, man. A friend sent me a screenshot of 30 minutes at Pyre fiends, and he had made like almost 3 mil.
Holy cow!
Jesus. Yeah, I mean that was right then in the heat of it. But yeah.
Do you guys think that bringing these updates in, you know, that cause an initial shock for the first day or so, 2 days, 3 days to the economy is a good thing to be doing? You know, when you can have something like Pyre fans getting 3 mil GP an hour being a very mid-level Slayer task, all things considered.
I find it always a bit, when this happens, I try to be really sort of chill out about it. Like, I will not buy new items on the first day. I will just wait for it to settle. But it always feels a bit like I'm missing out on that. Like, so many people are speculating and earning a lot of money by it. I'm like, I know I don't do anything for it, but I feel I should be able to get a cut from that as well. Like, it feels a bit unfair.
Yeah. And
I would much rather have that like, to be honest, I would much rather Jagex grouping their updates a bit more, so that there's less unique opportunities to do so, and there's not people who can speculate like every single week and get rich that way. Like if you group these in larger updates, like there's one disruption a month or maybe even more, rather than every week something. And I look at the items in my bank and I'm always like, should I sell this stuff ahead of the update, or should I save up my miscellaneous stuff from this week and sell it for more next week? Like it's always sort of in the back of my mind, and I shouldn't be, to be honest. So
yeah, that's fair. I went all in this past week farming on Torstal because I thought Torstal was going to be the popular one, but I think Lantademy should have been the one that I invested in instead.
Yeah, it seems to be a popular one. Yeah, that's the one. I bought a bunch of seeds in that one.
Yeah, good call on that. My favorite ones for me are going to be Catentine and Guam, as I mentioned on the woodcutting side of things. I also think the Lantademy one is pretty good, and having tons of herbs in my bank, I have no problem with being able to make these, so that's good. Torstal, I don't see myself using the Torstal burners unless it's on double XP weekend. I don't know, about you guys on that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the XP one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm competing, yeah, you need that, and because think about that, it's 10%, but then throw the avatar in on that. I mean, what, 15% now?
Yeah.
Throw in another 5 for whatever skill outfit you got on there. Man, now you're up to 20%. Like in any other little things you can find. Yeah, that's important in a competition.
Okay. That makes sense then from that side. And then the hunter baiting trap one is good if you're going to be doing hunter. And then obviously I think poison ones are good too. And they're all very niche, but they all fill needs. And I don't see any of them being particularly useless. I think, can we agree on that? That none of them are useless. So, now, seeing these in game, do you think that they should have made more of them use magic logs? Because the way it works right now, Guam, Terramin, and Marintil use regular. Haralander and Ranner use oak. Toadflax and Spiritweed use willow. Yared and Regali maple. Avanto, Quorum, Bloodweed, and Snapdragon use acacia. And Catentine, Lantademy, and Dwarfweed use yew, while Torstal and Fellstock use magic.
I mean, I think it's good that they go across the entire range of logs, especially because, like we said, like the first poison one, like it's really nice that low levels get something out of this as well, especially because lower levels generally don't have that much use out of herblore. So,
yeah.
Or woodcutting, for that matter.
Yeah, I'm mainly concerned about the magic logs,
On the other hand, like, there is still something to be said about using magic logs for fletching. But you wouldn't use magic logs... Like, you would use magic logs for fletching, but you wouldn't use things like maple logs for fletching.
Right.
So it's kind of nice that the maple logs got a bit more to make sure that there's also a sink for them, because maples were the default simple components sink, right?
Yeah.
Because they're okay. There were so many coming into the game to the Miscellanea Kingdom, and there were no real uses for it. So I don't mind that these are a bit heavier towards the lower logs.
Well, Maple only has 2. Acacia has 4.
Acacia is nice, because what else would you use Acacia for?
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I mean, yay for menopause. Get some love.
Hey, this could be a good way of making some good mid-level money, right?
I'll let you know. I've been here for a few days.
Grand exchange-wise, magic logs are going for 415, Acacia 432.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, that's cool, right?
I think it's a supply and demand thing.
It is. It is. And I am just still still pissed off that we're in a situation where you look at the drop sources for the magic logs. Nex can drop between 750 and 1250, or that's Nex Angel of Death. Nex herself, 375. Yakamuri between 210 and 689. Barrow's Rise of the Six. Gregorovic, Hellweir, Vindicta, QBD, Wildy Worm. All of these things are dropping magic logs. The second highest regular piece of wood that you can cut into the game, and that's just downright disgusting to me. And I was hoping that this update would be able to shift that around, and I'm gonna give it some more time to see if we see the price of magic logs go up because of this. But I don't think that only having the two very high-end ones using magic logs is going to work. And in particular, I think that the magic logs should have been extended down to Dwarf Wheat and Lantademy on these ones.
But let's be honest. Like looking at the sheer number of magic logs that are coming into the game, like that massive load. Are you really gonna move the dial with adding this as a sync for magic logs?
Probably not with an update like this, no. And that's why I'm going to go back to my initial theory that would be nice for what I want. I think the idea with this is to see how many magic logs, can be pulled out of the economy with this, and then examine those drops probably at a later date.
Well, it's also like, you're seeing how much you can pull out, but it's also keep tying the price of the incense sticks much more to the ashes and the herb, but mostly the herb. So, I mean, that's good for you, right, Shane?
Yeah, you're right.
Think about it, because it's going to be much more dictated by the herb price than anything else.
Because let's face it, I mean, aside from those Chaos Giants that we talked about a couple weeks back, how do people get herbs in their game? Slayer, a few farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'm willing to give it a chance. Anything else on the incense that we need to talk about, or can we go on to Firemaking spirit quality of life improvements?
I mean, I think it is worth pointing out that, like, we're looking at the three things it creates. It adds a sink for herbs, it adds a sink for ashes, and it adds a sink for logs. Like, all three of them kind of needed a sink because they're important money-making methods.
And it's two of each log per stick.
Yeah, and two of each ashes as well. And, ashes come from Slayer, so the PvMers get something. And to be honest, ashes were always a bit... Like, I used urns all the time when going on the Slayer tasks for my prayer experience. But, like, it's a pretty good sort of way of boosting the Slayer drops. And at the same time, like, skillers are getting something out of this. Maybe not in the form of magic logs, but at least the herbs are gonna... Like, herbs are already pretty consistently at a pretty good price level, and this is only going to stabilize them a bit more and make sure that there's a demand. But
yeah, especially
we'll have to see if incense sticks are actually still being used in a month or two from now, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
But like having all these things it's really important, actually. So
yeah, and I mean, we said this when we saw the initial design for this. This is, of course, a Mod Timbo update, and these updates are always, right spot on with what the game needs. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I just would like more, and to kind of like tighten the screws on some people's heads, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Fire Spirits,
go for it.
Okay, so what happened with these this week? Audio cues are now played when a Fire Spirit spawns. Fire Spirits now have a timer above their head, counting down to when they'll disappear. When you catch a Fire Spirit, it will appear in your inventory, and when caught, the next few logs will give extra Firemaking XP and Divine Firemaking Spirits XP. Divine Fire Spirits, will provide both Firemaking and Divination XP. And Fire Spirits will now specify which log they're from, and the higher-tiered logs will give better rewards, and clue scrolls have been added to the loot tables. And there's one more they didn't mention on the news posting here. and it's in the patch notes. But if you light a firelighter, you can use those firelighters to get a 30% increase on the rewards that you get from your fire spirits. Now, this is...
It's sort of nice. It's like a nice interplay, right? Because firelighters are a clue reward.
Right.
And then you get clues back from, like, the fire spirits. So it's sort of... It's a nice... It sort of like nicely loops together in on each other. And it hopefully has, like, a positive feedback loop going on with people doing more clues.
Yeah,
but then that, again, is going to influence fortunate component prices and you name it. So it becomes a bit... I think this is starting to show how complex an update like this can be.
Yeah.
How many dials you can turn to make things different.
Yeah, and, before this update, the only real use for the firelighter was to make a different colored fire. So,
Yep.
Now they have a use. And talking about the drop tables of the fire spirits, as a reminder, they can give you summoning charms, regular ashes. They also have the ability to give you firelighters, as well as any gem except for onyx. Important note there. Basic runes, stone spirits, starting at iron and going all the way up to runite.
Yay!
More stone spirits.
I'm so excited about getting more stone spirits in my bank.
Yeah, just like those 3 runite spirits that the Saren spirit gives you, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that the important thing to talk about with this one, and I think this is the update or the side of the update that people are going to gloss over the most, is that prior to this, there was really no easy way of knowing when the spirit appeared. You had to be constantly watching for it. Now you have numerous indications of that it appeared and when it's going to disappear, and you can also put all of them in your inventory, and they all open up at the exact same time. I got 2 spirits in one inventory of magic logs at the bonfire. So
I went to 250 logs to get my first stone spirit.
Jesus.
Fire spirit.
I don't know. I don't know how I got 2 in one inventory and you went until 250.
And then I got 2 at the same time.
Oh, okay. So it's it's paying you back then.
Sure.
Okay. So does this kind of just adds a bit more depth to Firemaking, I think. Does Firemaking, with this update on the whole, the Incense and now the Fire Spirits, do we think that Firemaking is in a better place today than it was last week?
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt about it that this added more stuff. It's not there yet. I think Firemaking is still not necessarily the most useful of skills, but it's a step in the right direction, and I'm really hoping that they will do more stuff like this, because it works really well. It's relatively small, but it adds some cool stuff to the game without necessarily complicating everything. Like, it's a very simple mechanic as well. So
yeah, and I mean, the very fact that we now have something that you need to level up with the Firemaking skill in order to use the Incense sticks, that does give people reason to actually train the skill.
I mean,
yeah.
I got the skill because I like the cape collars, but
Yeah, and I've done that for skills too as well. But I mean, just looking at this, I think the one that everybody's going to want, going back to this, is 67 Firemaking for the Lantadimi sticks, and that's going to, I mean, obviously, I think most people who are doing high-end PvM are going to have 67 Firemaking, but it's just something to aim for to kind of generate a more rounded character. That we're actually going to need a bit more. We're going to need a bit more well-rounding to our character and provide a more wholesome RuneScape gaming experience, I think. So, That's all I have for Firemaking this week, unless you guys want to chat about anything else with this update.
No.
Going once, going twice, sold. Okie dokie. We also had the new Slayer resource dungeon, 100 Slayer or 100 dungeoneering required, filled with abyssal demons and dark beasts, right outside the Slayer Tower in Mauritania. I actually got 100 dungeoneering just for this update.
I couldn't. I didn't think you'd be able to go in there, Shane.
Well, I was 500k away. I did a couple dailies. I did a couple sinkholes, and that was done.
Okay.
Yeah. So, interesting part about this is that there are also imps in here.
Yeah, which is actually pretty nice if you go for the champion school, and it's also a nice sort of combination with the incense sticks with the ashes. Or do they drop ashes?
Yeah, they do.
They drop. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they do. Impious ashes. Also, they're in all the chambers too. So not just the abyssal demons one. So you could potentially just go set up a cannon, do dark beast, and then, the cannons don't work on the imps. Forgot about that. But and the cannons also don't work on the abyssal demons. But I think we did. I think this is an admission that these are two of the most popular Slayer creatures in the game, and it's in a relatively tight area too. So I don't necessarily know that you need to have a personal Slayer dungeon with abyssal demons or dark beasts anymore.
Yeah, I've been thinking about taking mine out actually, and putting in something that would be a better
spiritual mages.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Those things are apparently around 2.5 mil GP an hour, and they're easy to kill.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And they're also great for invention training if you're into that.
Oh,
you need that. Oh, yeah.
How?
You go through a set of armor pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Just siphon it on down.
Yeah. Anything else in the Slayer dungeon? No, I think that's good. I just never thought I'd get 100 dungeoneering for an actual update.
I kind of can't believe you got 100 dungeoneering.
All right. Ready for some patch notes, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Always.
So there's also a new camera mode called Freedom, which they say allows for more extreme camera angles and zoom levels. And initially this sounded as though it was going to be on the Orb of Oculus, but this is actually an in-game setting for your own camera. And, you can go all the way down so you can see the details of your face. But if you zoom backwards and go all the way out, things get really tiny. Have either of you guys tried this? I actually like this camera option.
Oh, I haven't tried it.
Okay. Give it a try, because, I have been on the RS3 one ever since RS3 came out, but this one, I just like having the full out view. And, you might think that click boxes are going to be an issue on this, but the click boxes are actually still relatively easy to click on things, including when I was at the Divination Colony, things were working just fine. So, give it a try.
I am trying it now, and it doesn't allow me to scroll out that far.
Oh.
I'm not trying to make anything smaller for myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work for me.
Huh. You might need to make it so that you're not zoomed. Is your camera really low to the ground?
No, straight up.
Huh. That's odd. All right. Moving on to other patch notes, resolved an issue where defensive abilities were not taken into account when calculating damage as the opponent died. That seems like that could have some pretty interesting edge cases that could help you survive or whatnot if the opponent fires off an attack as you're about to finish him. So that's good. Buffs from different items can no longer be activated in the same tick when using the draggable war and equipment slot on the action bar to switch them. So the way this reads is that if you had items equipped on your character, and you put those items onto the action bar by dragging those equipment slots to the action bar. In theory, you could just hammer a bunch of buttons on the action bar and activate numerous buffs in one tick. It's an interesting little issue there.
Oh, because that avoids the global cooldown.
Precisely.
Right.
Legendary pet scavenge ability will now prioritize the most valuable single item in a stack of loot. About
a
time.
day late and a dollar short.
Oh?
Yeah, years ago I should have a Bandos pet, but I didn't see it.
Oh!
And Decayed Tooth went away. That would never happen
A
again.
Bandos pet?
Yeah, pet, man.
Oh, yeah. How'd you know that you missed it?
My friend was PMing me, and I kept like I didn't see that, and then he started calling me on Discord.
Oh,
I heard that.
Oh,
so I answered. He's like, "You got the pet. You got the pet." I was like, "Where?"
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, this must have been painful for you to see this.
Well, yeah, it was a really good a kill count too, man. I was only like at 730, 731, something like that. So it was bad.
Oh,
that won't happen now. So yay for the
Jesus Christ. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
That's
horrible.
It's
one of those.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Ay. All right. Increase the effective range of the ricochet ability against additional targets. Previously, it hit enemies within 4 squares of its attack. Now this is 6. This change also affects the Caroming perk, whatever Caroming is. I'm not sure what that perk is. Stomp and Dungeoneering will now immediately advance to his next phase when the crystals are placed.
Thank goodness. I hate waiting on that guy.
Stomp is probably one of my least favorite bosses.
I am happy to not know him because I don't do Dungeoneering.
Well, I'm sure he ran into him a time or two.
Yeah,
probably. Grouping system-wise, they have added raid practice mode, such that if you're in a group and readied, you can right-click the raids barrier and choose a boss in practice mode, and from there, any of the options will take you to that part of the raid's boss fight, so you can practice specific raids instances on their own now. For next Angel of Death, kill timers will be wiped on the first login of this update, and this is because the kill timer didn't have any player checks, so a team of 50 could set a fast kill time and still have it tracked. And you're going to need 7 people or less to get a kill count on, or kill timer on this.
Okay.
Nex is also now attackable during her phasing. This allows players to build adrenaline and keep seamless combat. Damage to Nex is reduced by 99% at this point. Once again, reducing the need to have combat dummies in the fight and allowing people to keep their adrenaline up, which is a very important thing for PvM. The Icicle Slam Icicle health has been reduced to 20k, down from 100k. I've never fought this boss, so I don't know what this is about.
Less of a grind of this boss, I would assume.
Okay.
Or maybe I could imagine this being like a special attack that you can avoid by killing the icicle, where people never bothered because it had so much XP. So
okay. And 20k is really simple to take down too.
Yeah.
So, Icicle Bleed is applied after 6 seconds of being under the icicle. Players will be placed in the room instead of the ledge when entering the instance, and if the fight has started, then players will still be placed on the ledge to spectate. That's good, so you don't get thrown in there and potentially aggroed to death. The ice closing in around the edges of the arena in Phase 1 has been removed. It was causing major FPS drops when it would spawn
in. Typical.
Yeah, rather than fix it, FPS-wise, just remove the mechanic. That's A-okay with me. A quick exit option has been added to the pillar at the end of the fight. That's good. That's good. All players can now roll on a unique instead of 1 unique per kill. That's going to help a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
in terms of
It's
getting
also going to devalue a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, Next Angel of Death has been out for a long time, and I mean, it doesn't make sense that it's only one person per kill that could get that when you have a group.
But if you do like a mass, do you get like 50 rolls?
That's a good question. Based on this literature, I would say yes.
Okay.
That doesn't seem right, does it? Because
No.
then you're effectively guaranteed multiple per if you have 50 people in there.
Yeah.
Nex will no longer cleave with her melee hit, and if Nex attacks with magic, she will hit the main tank after 3 cycles, allowing them to react and switch prayers. 3 cycles. So that's 2.4 seconds. That's a long time.
That's pretty generous, I feel.
Yeah. Nex should also no longer retarget after any of her attacks or phasing. And if a player dies, Nex will no longer retarget onto another player unless it's the tank that has died.
But how do they define who the tank is?
Whoever has aggro. I'm guessing.
Okay. It feels a bit strange to me that bosses are designed with player roles in mind. Like, player roles should be emergent.
Yeah, so that, you can have someone swap to tank if you need.
Yeah, exactly. So I find this... Yeah, okay.
Also, the off-tank drop roll has been removed and replaced with a DPS roll, because previously tanks would get a different roll than the DPS. Or the off-tank, I guess.
I'm really confused by all this terminology being
Yeah.
used to describe boss mechanics.
Yeah. This would have been a good chance to chat with David this week, but his computer is unfortunately AWOL with technical issues. Yeah. Moving on to skilling, reverted a change to the Glacier Cave Bane mine site to restore it back to the way it was before the March 11th, 2019 update. So they changed some positions of the rocks so that they're not nearly as close as they were. So this is an effective nerf because the change after March 11th made it easier to get rock opportunities and hit them all. So you need to move around a bit more for this. And that's my favorite Bane mining site. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's the only one I use.
Yeah, because all the others are too far away and don't have a nice and easy teleport to get to.
It's meant to be the best one because you get it after pretty high level.
Yeah. Added, speaking of teleports, added the Guthix Temple deep beneath the Lumbridge Caverns to the teleport options on the 6th Age circuit, and the Max Guild Portal teleport to the Tormented Demons now places the player closer to them while still respecting their boundary of aggression.
Respecting boundaries. It's important.
It really is. It really is. Even for Tormented Demons.
Yeah.
And
teleporting a bit closer, but still respecting boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, they're already tormented. You can at least respect their boundaries.
And removed the limit of 1 teleport from Remora's necklace and moved its teleport location from the White Knight's camp to the ominous door that leads into the QBD fight.
Does it really say it's with an apostrophe?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it does.
Even I know that's wrong.
Yeah, and sometimes the patch notes are the hardest part to read because they have numerous different flavors of English thrown into them, I find. And finally, players can now complete their Slayer task if they had previously reset their Wilderness task to an easier one. Alrighty.
Cool.
Okay, so that's it for the patch notes. Next up, I think we need to just have a sit back and talk about this thing that is a bit odd. Portable Vic the Trader.
Shane didn't believe me when I mentioned
I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
From April 23rd to May 26th, you'll be able to exchange a bond in order to summon your own very own portable Vic the Trader. And let's see, how long is he around for when you do that?
An hour.
He's around for 1 hour, so that's About 18 mil for 1 hour of this trader, and only you can use him.
Yep.
And this is going to be in game from April 23rd to May 26th. They stress that standard Vic the Trader is not going away. And then it works pretty much just like Vic the Trader does in order to being able to dump off your XP.
And the first time you use it, you get a little boost to the exchange rate for bonus XP as a thank you for using this.
Oh, of course. We're going to spend a bond, and we're going to get a nice little boost for this. And it's also worth noting that this is going to be available to free-to-play as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what to think of this. Because a bond is a lot, and I don't know anyone personally, and definitely not myself, who would spend a bond on this. You guys?
I mean, it just depends. If you say you were doing some other like treasure hunter promotion, you ended up with a bunch of bonus XP and something that you're not going to train and you don't want. If GP is not a big deal to you, then of course, why wouldn't you trade it in?
I mean, especially,
at least you get to pick it,
Especially ahead of like a bonus XP weekend, like you get to trade your bonus XP into a different skill. Like, that's pretty powerful.
But it's only going to be around for 1 month, and presumably we don't have a double XP token.
You get a token. It's like
you get a token, yeah, and you can use it whenever you want. So you can just buy like 10 of them and use them whenever.
Is this a bond sync?
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm wondering. Exactly. It may be, but I think that's okay. Plus, what's wrong with picking the XP that you want? Like, you already paid for it. What's wrong with that?
So what I'm confused by is why they would pick something. Like, we have a place for this already, for this kind of item. It's called the Solomon's General Store.
And
why is this?
And you get rune coins with bonds potentially. Or
yeah,
real
exactly.
Money.
So I'm super confused. Like, there's sort of an outrage over this, right? I mean, it's microtransactions. Of course, there's going to be an outrage over this. Like, let's be honest. But like, there's a bit of an outrage over this, and I'm like, if Jagex had announced this as a new item in Solomon's General Store, would people care that much? I think it would be okay. Like, there would still be outrage, but people would also accept it.
It's kind of like the wealth evaluator.
Yeah, exactly. Like a wealth evaluator, bank boosters, citadel boosters are a thing, prismatic dice, keepsake keys. Like, we have a bunch of stuff in the general store that's like in the same ballpark. So I am a bit surprised that, first of all, that this got the attention it did, but I also know why, which is something with Rune Pass.
Well, and this is another experiment just like that too.
It is another experiment, and but like, do they really need to experiment with this? Like, they could just add it to the Solomon's General Store, and if it doesn't work,
I have a theory. I have a theory on this. That they want to get to a point.
All right. Put on your tin hats, everyone.
Yeah. I have a theory with this that they want to get rid of Solomon's General Store. And that they can effectively move everything in Solomon's General Store that's a cosmetic into a potential loyalty point shop. Because I know we've been hearing a bit about a loyalty rework on and off in the past. And when you think about it, cosmetics in-game should be awardable whether you are spending real money or if you've been in the game a long time with loyalty points. And
won't happen. That won't happen.
Okay.
It's a source of money. It's one of the biggest sources of money, I think, to RuneScape. And also the least controversial, let's be honest.
Yeah, but they said they're dependent on Treasure Hunter, so that's the one. That's the one they don't want to mess with.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see them cutting off a revenue source. I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, you know, that looking at it from that perspective, you definitely never want to do that. I can also say that I have a theory that, with the amount of PvM that we see happening and just the sheer amount of money that exists in game, that there's probably a good number of bonds that are just sitting in people's banks and they want to, make them evaporate. And this is a good way of doing it because those people presumably don't need membership. They're not going to purchase treasure hunter keys if they haven't already. And they probably own everything already on the Solomon's General Store.
But do we really need like a bond sync? Like for a really long time, bonds sort of hovered around like 13, 14 mil.
Now they're
right?
20.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the
they
price
hovered.
rate. They raised the price on them.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why.
So, but like, do we need to push that price further? Like, I'm not sure if we need a bond sync, to be honest. They're pretty expensive. Like, I understand that inflation in the game is a thing and that more and more gold enters the game. Like, I could, like, with the money I have, I could afford a few years of membership, basically.
Really?
It's like, yeah.
Where did that come from?
Ports.
Oh, wow.
Slayer.
Wow. I guess
I almost have 1 billion GP.
Oh, okay. I guess that's what happens when you don't do Slayer then, aka look at me.
I mean, this is not that much Slayer. Like most of this is ports, I think. But
fascinating.
yeah, like let's take like 1 billion GP divided by 20. That's like 50. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's 50 months. No, 50.
25 weeks.
It's 25 weeks, which is half a year.
Oh, okay.
Half a year?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Half a year.
Close. All right.
No, wait. No. 50 bonds. Every bond is 2 weeks. It's 100 weeks. It's 2 years. It's 2 years of membership.
No, a bond is 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can afford the
50
50 ones, so I can afford 100 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
So that's 2 years of membership I can just afford. That's a lot of money for Jagex if he played it down.
So what's the point of this then? It's obviously not a
something
bond sync. Then we just
the point is like to pick your own XP. Like they're getting you on both ends, right? They got you on Treasure Hunter because you bought keys. Now you have a bunch of bonus experience and stuff that you don't need and didn't want. It's going to be locked there. It's going to be wasted unless you buy another bond, and then you can put it where you want. I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, a company needs to earn money, and I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Absolutely.
But here comes the but that you saw coming. I don't understand why Jagex is looking for all these different ways of monetizing the game. It worries me a bit because I pay per month to play this game.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head with that.
Like if this was a free-to-play game, I can absolutely see that all these monetization methods being added. But this is a paid subscription game. Like for the same price I pay for, like you can get membership for 2 months for like what, $20, right?
Yeah.
$25.
Yeah.
For $25,
yeah.
You can play Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can get Overwatch indefinitely, or Rocket League indefinitely, and it makes sense that those are monetization methods to make sure that the upkeep for the server can be kept. But this is a continuous investment to keep playing for me, and somehow Jagex is pulling on each like 50 different sides of me to get more money out of me. And that is not really a practice I appreciate.
Or are they looking for a potential replacement to Treasure Hunter?
I mean,
I don't think they want to be dependent solely on Treasure Hunter, but I mean that's just where they're at.
But like I find that sort of attitude, because like it's gonna have an influence on like player trust, right? Like, it's gonna have an influence on how people look at the game. Like, look at if you looked at this game right now from as an outsider's perspective, and you got the following image, which I think is pretty accurate. You pay, what is it? I don't know the prices, like 10 quid a month for this game, and then
or
every day
$12
you
US.
and then you get a every day you get a banner in your face that you can use free rolls, and you can pay for more keys to open these chests. Oh, and also there's cosmetics you can pay for. And if you want something to, if you want like statistics about your gameplay, you need to pay this much per month. And if you also want to get like all these extra rewards, you need to pay this per month. And it's called the Premier Club. And then there's also an item in the game that is actually kind of a must if you want to know how much money you have, that you also have to pay for.
The Wealth Evaluator.
Do you see how many monetization methods I'm already mentioning? And this is not even all of them. And then the obvious response is, but I'm paying 10 quid a month to play this game. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And they're the good guys of the gaming industry.
I mean, I find, like, I'm not faulting Jagex for wanting to make money, but there is a point where it gets too much, and I think what Jagex needs to do is, instead of just trying to throw as many things as possible at us and seeing what sticks, I think they need to revise their monetization strategy and really think, like, how can we tell like a coherent story around this like, you need to get players trust as well. You need to explain why. Like, I play Rocket League, and I'm not bothered by the fact that there are crates and keys.
Yeah, because they're all cosmetic.
Because first of all, it's all cosmetic, and second of all, like, I understand that I paid for it $20 once, and what do I have, like 200 hours of time into it? Like, that game needs to upkeep their service. Like, I completely accept that. But for RuneScape, I pay per month, and I find it so hard to justify all this additional monetization being thrown at me.
Yeah.
And this sort of, I mean, if they had just released this as a Solomon's General Store item, I would have had these feelings less, because it would have been a pre-existing thing. But the way they communicated this sort of, like, puts it right in my face back, this whole discussion about we really need more monetization methods because somehow players are not worth enough or something like that. And it feels so short-sighted. It feels like they're sacrificing long-term player trust for this short revenue win. So, yeah, I just needed to say that.
And you know, on that same note, they have tried to diversify the monetization model and have something a bit more consistent. And they tried that with something last year called Rune Pass.
Yeah.
And Rune Pass failed, not because it was a bad idea, but because the post behind it and the ideas that took hold in the community just poisoned it.
I think they should have made it a true experiment, and they should have turned off Treasure Hunter during that period.
Yes, they should have.
Or something like that.
They should have.
They should have completely tried the new thing instead of having it on top of the existing, because it sent out the wrong image. Like, let's admit, even if the news post had been perfectly valid and fine in explaining their reasoning, how many people actually read the news posts?
Yep. Exactly. And I think that's the key point here, is that, you know, we want some kind of monetization, and like you said, a central story around it is good, but when they tried to change that out last year, it just fell flat on its face. And now we have things like this, you know, seeing if we can add in a specific item for a bond and seeing if that'll fly. So,
like I said, I'm not wronging, like, I'm not faulting Jagex for trying to make money, but I think it's super important to realize that this is not how you treat a loyal player base.
Indeed.
Do companies work different in the UK than other places?
No.
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well,
but But we also need to remember that Jagex is not a traditional company in that they have relationships with the players. You know, ask anyone who their favorite representative from EA is or Blizzard, and they'll not be able to tell you who. But ask who your favorite JMod is, and everybody will be able to tell you just like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true, but I mean, at the end of the day, do they care about us or do they care about shareholders? You know, I mean, it's a little both, right? But I mean, I'm used to a corporation is going to squeeze every penny out of you that they can for any reason at all time. They have no conscience. They are a machine.
I'm not sure if I necessarily. I mean, maximizing revenue will always be the most important mission of any company. That I agree with. But being short-sighted and as soon as a player comes in squeezing all the money out of them, it's not the best way of getting the money out of them, right? I think long-term, like making sure that players stay with your game longer and pay membership longer and have a longer period to actually pay for stuff is also important. So it's not always as easy as just maximizing the different opportunities. Now, that being said, I know that for apps and such, that's definitely like the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the players are responsible for 80% of the revenue, and it's even more extreme. I think it's even like 1 to 99. Like 1% of the players is like responsible for 99% of the revenue. There are people in the mobile app, mobile gaming, who spent thousands of dollars on games, and those make up a large portion of the revenue. So for those players, it's important that you have all these opportunities to spend money on. Like, you need to make sure that there's a continuous sink of money, and maybe that's sort of what RuneScape is lacking, right? There's not really a consistent source of money. Like, you can buy keys, but at some point that's going to have like diminishing returns. There's only so many cosmetics, etc. So, you know, maybe that's what they're trying to sort of achieve, but I don't see how they can't achieve that by just expanding the Solomon's catalog.
Yeah, and, you know, I think we also do have to go back to the very core aspect of this and look at the fact that Jagex is owned by a Chinese company, and this is the norm for Chinese gaming companies.
Yeah, but I mean, it's known by every corporation. I agree with Sirion. I wish that's the way things were, but it's not, and I hate it. But what are you going to do? Like, that's what they are set up to do. They have to, by law, maximize the profit.
And that's, and that's this could just be part of RuneScape achieving maturity. So, all right.
Next up, Jagex is bought by EA.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. I think let's move on to what's actually next up and that's the big questions Q&A from this week. We're not going to go through the entire thing here. We did put together a few bullet points of things that we wanted to discuss, and I believe the first of those up was the May weekends. So Sirion wanted to talk about those, so I'll let him shepherd that through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be a bit quick about this because arguably I haven't seen the stream. I just looked at some notes, but what I really like, so the May weekends, from what I understand, is going to be a bit like the Voice of Seven worldwide. Like, there's going to be like every hour or something like that, there's going to be like one activity or one skill that's going to have sort of a spotlight, and the idea is that players actually sort of move around and do different things over time, and that might sort of put players more together and playing like in the same areas, and I think in essence I think it's a great idea. And last year around the achievement rework, we talked about several ideas, and something like this is what we discussed. I'm actually intending of having like a wider article about this next month on the Informer.
Oh, that's
sort of how to sort of shepherd players and making the game more fun as well, I believe. But we'll see. So I kind of like this idea. I'm going to be honest. I am still completely bummed out by how the achievement rework fell completely flat. So my expectations on this are pretty low, but I'm happy that Jack's at least still trying to make the multiplayer part of RuneScape work a bit better.
Yeah, and we've said this for a long time. This was our big theme of 2018, is that 2018 was a successful year because expectations were managed. And with that, I think it's important to say to everybody here that this is a new idea. So when these come out, don't say that, oh, this is bad, we don't like it, we want something else, yada 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 kind of thing, right? Let's just give this a chance and see how it goes, and hope that. What we ultimately learn from this is that, this is good. Maybe we could do this on a smaller scale. Do it, at the last weekend of every month or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am hopeful in that regard, and I just hope the players will see it as such.
Well, I just have questions, I think, about it, because I want to be optimistic and I want it to work, I guess, as I don't really understand the goals of it quite so well, but my questions are: how are you going to do it in a lore sense where it's not, it fits in Prif? Why is it going to be like the entire game world? I need something to kind of tell me why that's happening. And the other thing is, how do you stop everyone from feeling like it's another chore? Like, now I got to go do this. Oh, I can't sacrifice the raid. I got to do woodcutting now. Crap, I got to do summoning. But
that's not really what ended up happening with the Voice of Seven, right? Like, do you feel that every time the half-in hour comes up, you need to go and do agility or prayer?
That's exactly how people feel when it comes to Amclad and summoning.
Really?
And yes. Yeah, we're just in different circles. Yeah, man. If you're trying to be efficient in any way, you want to use the voice. I'm not saying you follow the voice around Prif, but if you're going to do something and you're going to save a lot of money or get that extra XP on something like summoning or agility that is just a pain to train, yeah, man, you don't want to miss half an hour. You don't want to miss Amclad.
Oh, people can't complain about the pain of training agility. I trained all the way to 99 or all the way to 88 or 90 on the monkey course, and then as I was getting 99, the advanced gnome came out, and I did advanced gnome from 88 to 99. People can't complain about agility.
I train agility. I strap some boots on my feet, feather them up. Woo, treasure hunter.
I have no comeback from this. I was going to say something. I have no comeback from this, though.
Well, I'm the Puritan. Tanis is the one who uses whatever modern knickknacks and tools he has. I don't know where you fit in there, Sirion.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, but to come back to these voice hours, right? The alternative of there not being a voice is these, let's say there is no voice. People would then just still choose to get 120 summoning, and they would just do it all in one long session and just grind together, and that's not fun either. So at least, if the voice sort of moves, forces between air quotes in this case, moves you around, forces you to move around the game world and do different activities, in a row, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as there's still a choice within that basket, not you need to make this kind of thing. As long as it's not the level of daily challenges, that'll be fine. And
daily challenges can just go away.
Yeah, And we're putting a lot here with the cart before the horse in discussing this, so I don't want to go too far down this path. But I think we'll be fine on the forced front. I think that they'll have to come up with something compelling, and the very fact it's going to be new and interesting. The first one on its own will definitely be very successful in that regard. So.
Yeah, you know what I think would be something that maybe they could add this into it, but making the voice also a certain city or area of the game world to get you moving around like that.
I like that.
That would be cooler.
I hope to add in mini games and activities as well. That would also be pretty awesome.
Fishing trawler.
Yeah. Trouble brewing.
All right.
But yeah, I could, for example, see them let's say the fishing platform. So focusing that for an hour would be pretty cool. Imagine lots of players coming together and training fishing there. That would be pretty sociable and fun. So
yeah, and I mean, with that, make it something at the end of every month, and you have something new, I think. Next up, of course, talked about in this stream was the comp cape, and this is just the update that keeps on giving for us, right?
Is that what you want to call it?
Well, I mean,
I feel like it's taken away from my soul.
Well, it's giving to us in terms of content to discuss, right?
It's giving me heartburn.
Okay.
Giving me anxiety.
The biggest thing that came out of this one for me is that ultimately, if there's parts of the design that players don't like, they're going to look at tweaking it. And ultimately, if there's a huge uprising against the design, they're going to ditch the rework completely.
So let's be honest, it's going to be ditched because we know that.
Yeah. And
well, I figured it was going to be ditched. I've been saying that how long?
Since the first week. A lot of players feel it's too complex. A lot of players feel it's not solving the problems that it needs to solve. Hello, we talked about that the last 2 weeks, didn't we?
Yo.
In very simple forms. And they say if that happens, we can strip the design down to its simplest components. And I think that's what we've been advocating here on the show, too.
Yeah. Look, there is absolutely no possible way that Jagex can please everyone with this, right? There's nothing they can do to please everyone, which tells me there's about a 99% chance that it's going to get messed up.
And just for a quick summary, if you guys haven't listened to that, or if you haven't listened to the nibbles, which, by the way, just head on over to our YouTube channel and you can find all the nibbles on this. I still find that name amusing, and I'm glad we went with it, but that's beside the point. 3-point bullet plan on the comp cape rework from us here. Number 1, separate out the benefits and put them on the player. Number 2, make all the capes of accomplishment, including the 99s, the quest, the master quest, the max, the comp, the trim comp, the master quest, cosmetic unlocks that unlock when you reach that milestone. Point number 3, bring all of comp and master quest and all of that into the achievement system which we have in game now, and add the new achievements and remove what the players deem that needs to be removed, and add extra achievements in there to continue down the 3 paths that we have: comp, master quest, trim. Simple.
We need a name for that so we can hashtag it and be like, do it like this. Check this out. It's the best way.
I mean, how long did it take me to explain that?
Hashtag 3 pillars.
3 pillars.
Woo! The 3 pillars of comp. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, seriously. I mean, it can be that simple. And I think if they would have put out a 3-page design doc on that with one talking about each of those 3 different things, I think we'd be seeing a different reaction to it, right?
I mean, you make it sound really simple, but I kind of like the idea that there's 3 tiers and the different categories.
Yeah, I mean, I like I like that too. It's a good design and everything. I freely admit that.
But to me, that's also much you say, move the achievements into the achievement system. But the achievement system is a mess. So why not take this opportunity to also solve that? And by having these nice categories and the 3 different tiers in each category, you also Like, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's a natural extension of this
Make
design.
the
that you
achievement system
chose.
work, right?
Yeah.
Because
But, like-
we've been on this since April of 2017.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
but-
long we've been talking about this.
I was gonna say, and you guys aren't new. You didn't meet your first RuneScape player yesterday. How much about change do they, or are they going to be behind? How much change can they handle? How much change can they handle over stuff that has taken them years to earn? Like, it's playing with fire for no reason.
Well, that's part of the problem with this stream. Why, I absolutely adore the people who were on the stream, but I'm going to be completely blunt with it. I think doing this stream this week was a bad idea, and it was a train wreck.
Yeah, I've been saying this too. I think actually, Shane, you might have said it first, but let's get people that's what they do is talk. Get the developers off the couch. Like, it's not the place for them. Like, they're so smart and everything, but there's so much going on in their head when they're trying to explain something. You're hearing more negative than you are anything else because they got to qualify everything because, they can't give you a straight answer.
Like
There's not a straight answer to give.
There was talk about bank
just-
placeholders on this live stream. People are going to see them talk about it, and they're going to think of it as an idea going forward. And I put this in as a bullet point, and Sirion and I were chatting with this about before we even got in this call here today on this. Is that they just need to stop talking about,
Or at least have someone that's what they do.
because half the updates on the stream may or may not come out, but the fact it's been talked about makes people think that it's on the radar.
I mean, I don't think you should. I don't think you should kick developers off the stream entirely because
No.
I find it very interesting to see like how passionate these developers are about the game and all that stuff. But they need to put a bit more thought in the format and what they talk about. They need to moderate what they talk about a bit better, and in general, just like be a bit smarter about this stuff. It's not that hard. Like, the point is, like, if you go to like an open big questions Q&A on stream, you have to admit that like 90%
It didn't
of
feel
the
like
questions,
there was an agenda here.
like 90% of the questions the players ask are going to answer with no, we can't do that. You need to realize that ahead of time.
Yeah.
And
that sucks as someone watching the stream, as just a player. That sucks. And look, developers are great in certain instances, the way that you use them. Like, if you're sitting down next to someone, they're showing you, like, oh, this update's coming out next week, and they're showing you highlights of it. That's great. And like you said, with the passion and all that, that's great. But in a question and answer just on the couch, I feel like they're too smart because they're like, I got to qualify whatever I say. I got to qualify this with. Well, it might not happen though. But if this could happen, if Brexit happens, then I don't know. I mean, geez, what would happen? I can't say. Like, are we going to get this update? I don't know. And that is what I'm tired of seeing. Like, just give me a straight yes or no, or don't mention it, and I'm happy.
Yep. There's also talk of moving certain skills such as summoning to 120. The answer to this one, maybe, but it would have to be different than the pouch making skill. And, this is also moving goalposts for players in terms of completing various aspects of the game. And that's something that they don't want to do right now. But the fact is, we have virtual master capes. It's already there.
But it didn't. You did it with Slayer. That's a hell of a lot harder to do than
they also wanted Slayer to be different after 99. Yeah, that worked out for them. See, that's like another thing about these things. It's not just there's a lot of things that they have going on in their head, right? Like
a lot of things I have going on in my head too.
Like this summoning thing, like they say like maybe we can do it, and they know what the conditions of that maybe is, but they don't express that.
Yes.
So like they're like, if something like that's like another frustrating factor. There's a lot of like Tan has said, like they're trying to sort of give like a answer that's true to the reality.
You guys
but
aren't
they
going to
don't-
like this. Go ahead. Sorry, finish.
But like they also then the preconditions to the answer are super vague because they don't want to reveal like what the problems are they're running into and all that stuff. So basically, you're not getting any information out of these.
You know what they
which only
need?
makes it more frustrating.
They need a spin doctor, the kind that works in political offices, to run this stream.
Yeah, or did you just stop streaming?
Or they could do that.
It's-
Well, like a straight up person that's dedicated to PR, right? I mean, it's really
That's
all you
supposed to
need.
be Mod Shawnee, I think, community manager.
Well, he's good at it. Let him do it.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's questions in this stream that shouldn't have been asked. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to give everybody the caveat that, if you're watching this stream, know that the vast majority of what you hear, and I think most of our update listeners are aware that the vast majority of what you hear on this stream, just because it's talked about, doesn't mean it will be coming to an update near you this year or if ever.
But
what the caveat should be? If you're spending an hour to look at the stream, you could also spend an hour listening to our RSBANDB update.
That's true.
that's true.
Take your
yeah.
pick. Take your pick.
All right.
I was gonna say, but Shane, those were the questions from the people. Are you anti-democratic?
No, not at all.
Shane hates democracy.
Not at
What?
all.
No.
Not at all. Not at all. And I would have loved to have been handing out answers to these questions, because the majority of the questions that were asked had an answer that could have been answered without needing to go into the developer side of it. Yeah, there are some where we want to see what the developers have to say, like on the comp and the May weekends and whatnot. And, as we said, looking at updates before they come out, but the vast majority of these things could just be answered in a different way. So I think that's enough for the live stream. You guys good to go on from there?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, if you guys do like caring about skills, 120 skills and goalposts and whatnot, and what could potentially be coming to a future skill in RuneScape, I'm going to suggest that everybody head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/RSBNB. And there you can support us on doing this podcast. And, each and every week we take stock of what our listeners are supporting us do, and it is truly amazing. So this week I would like to thank Brock H., Diana, Kyle, Tom V., and Zez for supporting us on this podcast. It truly, truly means the world to us. So thank you very much. And the reason I mentioned 120 skills and potentially skills going forward is because we're doing something called the monthly bit that you'll be able to access later this month if you support us on Patreon. Everybody who supports gains access to our monthly bits. These are our monthly bonus shows, and this month's topic is going to be about future skills in RuneScape. Skills that might have been talked about before, skills that we might come up with. It's going to be a nice mix back and forth of what we got on that. So everybody who signs up at our Patreon page at patreon.com/RSBNB will get immediate exclusive access to the monthly bit. And you can sign up and gain access for as little as $1 a month. And if you sign up under that tier, you also get a special mention in our show notes, the ability to join our roundtable discussions when we do them, the ability to vote on topics for the monthly bit, and you also help fund costs for hosting and production of RSBANDB Update. For $3 a month, you get a special VIP rank on Discord, a special mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and high-quality stereo AAC versions of the show as well, in addition to everything else. And if you truly want to show your support to us in a huge way, you can support us for $5 a month, and everybody who is in that tier gets a weekly shout-out on the podcast and exclusive access to the clips that we use for the clip show at the end of the year. Those are some special ones indeed. And currently, community-wise, we have the monthly bit bonus show, which will be coming to you later this month. We also have Inside RSBANDB Update, Tanis is up this month, so get to learn a bit about our main co-host. And should we reach $50 a month, we'll be doing the RSBNB Update Roundtable on the first Saturday of each month. This will be a discussion on anything and everything RuneScape related. And finally, should we reach $99 a month, we'll be doing Movie Night in the RSBNB Discord, where we'll run through our favorite movies, and there's a good chance that there will be some Star Trek included in that. So all of this and more can be found at patreon.com/RSBNB. And thank you once again to everybody who supports us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
All right. So I really want to see if we can get to that movie night tier one day, but first we got to get to the round table. So
yeah.
But
those are going to be fun.
Yeah, they are.
I'm looking forward to those.
I'm actually looking forward to the bit this month because, we just talked about a live stream in which, various things in the future were discussed. But when it comes down to it, I think there's new skills that we can also discuss. And Jagex is also floated. That's going to be very interesting, too. So
yes, I am going to come up with something that is in no way a rework.
Yeah. Really?
It's not a rework, Shane.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay. All right. Well, you guys ready for some tech news?
I was until I saw that we have a Facebook story.
Oh, we don't actually have a Facebook story. That got subbed out for something else.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cut this all out then.
So this week, Apple had its Showtime event. They unveiled, I think by the count of it, 3 or 4 different streaming services. They unveiled a news subscription service called Apple News Plus, which includes a subscription to over 300 magazines that you'll be able to access on your iPad, iPhone, or Mac for $9.99 a month. Also launching this fall will be Apple TV Plus, which is going to feature their own original programming from creators such as Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, Oprah, and many others as well. And, there's a whole photo shoot with Tim Cook and all the stars after the event. They also announced Apple Arcade, which is going to be their gaming subscription service on mobile, which will have access to over 100 titles, no ads. And they're also bringing out the Apple Card, their own credit card.
See, I had to be a bit. I found the announcement for the TV service a bit strange because one of the big names they dropped was Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's all great, but then one of the news sources pointed out that Steven Spielberg has been a massive sort of opponent of Netflix movies getting Oscars. He's been pretty anti-streaming services in the past.
And now he's going to Apple because Apple will probably let him have it his way.
No, they're giving him that sweet, sweet money.
I was about to say, I think it has to do with something else, but I find the whole thing a bit that industry. It's not nice.
I'm gonna just go out on the limb here and say that this Apple TV streaming service, Apple TV Plus, is going to be late to the party because everybody else is already doing this. You're still going to be able to access your Showtime and everything to that effect. It's just the original content that you're going to be getting. And I mean, I don't know about you, but there's no one on this list that is particularly appealing to me.
I mean, I think the way Apple was sort of presenting this is they want to become the portal. They want to combine subscriptions to HBO and CBS All Access and Netflix and Disney and all that stuff. Because when you do Netflix, you only get Netflix, and when you do Disney, you only get Disney. And Apple is like, we want to work with all these streaming services and get it all together, and you can sort of make bundles and get more than one thing. And I'm like, great. I would definitely consider getting a bundle of Netflix and Disney Plus or something like that. That being said, is Disney gonna go and work together with Apple.
Nope.
Netflix has said they're not going to work together with Apple. Why would they? And why would HBO work together with Apple? Because Apple is going to take their cut. So, how is this going to work?
Exactly.
Like, that's sort of, like, you're right, they're late to the party, and all these streaming services, like, Netflix has a massive sort of critical mass. Like, something big needs to happen for a lot of people to shift to a different streaming service. So, like, what
did you guys not hear Oprah?
I'm sorry,
Hello?
but Oprah it doesn't move anything for me.
Shane, how dare you talk about Oprah that way?
Oh, seriously. What this is, in my view, is a streaming service for people who want to see themselves as in, or perhaps get a little bit closer to these stars who are doing this. There is nothing on here that you can't get elsewhere.
No, and like what Sarion's saying, I think it's going to be hilarious because Apple never wanted to play with anyone else, and now they're like, oh, but hey guys, want to play?
Exactly.
I'm going to laugh if they're like, yeah, piss off.
Like, pardon me for saying this, but I think this is going to be the streaming platform for the Hollywood elite.
Oh,
that wouldn't surprise me, because iPhones are the phones for the elite. So, I mean, that's it, right? You get a yacht, you get an iPhone, and you get Apple Plus or TV Plus. That's the triple trinity of.
Like, I don't need. Like, who wants to watch a morning news show? The morning show they're calling it. That's going to be on here with Jennifer Aniston.
Who wants to watch morning news shows in general? To be
exactly.
honest, to be honest, right? If I wanted to watch a morning news show, I would watch it on cable. Because that's what cable is for.
Yes.
Like, why would a streaming service have a daily thing? That's what cable is for.
Yeah.
It feels like despair.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they haven't announced a price yet, and there's apparently other TV channels that are going to be streaming and bringing their content to it later on. So this is probably going to be something along the lines of $30 to $40 a month, where you're going to need to effectively choose this or cable, or any number of other little streaming bundles combined.
Yeah. When they're putting a subscription price on the Apple Arcade too, aren't they?
Yes.
On top of that?
Yes.
I mean, and that, I'm sorry, that's not a good idea. I don't think there's anything appealing about that at all.
And it's only going to be top video
None.
game publishers, including Disney, Sega, Lego, Cartoon Network, and Konami. So this leaves the indies out.
But it's
this
mobile.
Apple.
It's all mobile. It's not. There's nothing. How could they even come out with this after Stadia was announced last week?
Oh, like, they highlighted there will also be games playable on macOS and tvOS.
Yeah, you can play Candy Crush on macOS. Woo, good job. Way to go, guys.
Okay.
You can play
Proud of
Candy
you.
Crush on Windows. I mean,
Well,
you can.
Well,
It's in the Windows Store.
I'm just. I don't know, man. I was pretty disappointed with their whole
me
arcade
too.
idea.
So, like, the TV Plus thing, right? The story is... it's not really there, to be honest. Like, it's sort of a half-assed thing, it feels like. And then Apple Arcade, like, okay, the idea is there, but how is it going to work? What's it going to cost? Nobody knows. And there was, like, a third thing they announced. I forgot what it even was. Like, they sort of half-announced it. Oh, right. Yeah, like, they announced it, and nobody really knows what it's... And this whole, like, everything they announced, it felt like they saw Google with their Stadia, and they were like, oh, damn, we need to announce something, and they just got together, like, 3 different things and announced it.
You know what this is? You know what this is?
This is a response to their iPhone sales dropping.
Exactly. This is Apple throwing everything streaming subscription related to the wall. Then in a year and a half down the line, we'll see which sticks. Some will be pared back. Some might be carried forward. And their hope is that they can use this to become a services company.
But, like, looking at this, like, has this really improved your trust of has this strengthened Or has it in any way improved the chances of you buying a new Apple device?
No. And I actually want to talk about the Apple Card, and related to that, it's a card that's uses the MasterCard payment processor, and Apple partnered with Goldman Sachs to create it. And their idea behind this is that they're creating the most high-tech credit card that has ever existed. It doesn't have a number on it. It doesn't have a signature on it. You only get the physical card if you happen to go to a place that doesn't take Apple Pay. And, of course, you're only going to be able to use the Apple Card on an iOS device. So the idea is if you sign up for an Apple Card, it's going to be another hook that'll keep you in the iOS ecosystem.
I think that's going to be Apple's downfall. I think that is being Apple's downfall right now. Like all these streaming services, like think about TV Plus. How well is it going to work on my Windows computer?
Yeah.
Like,
and
what software does Apple have that runs well outside of the ecosystem? Like they're not in a good position to start widely getting an adaptation on things. And less and less people are buying iPhones. People are leaving the ecosystem. So what's this service thing going to do for them?
Well, the card is to keep people roped into the iPhone system. The services is just to try and find another revenue source. Because News Plus is interesting in that it's centered around magazines, but you don't even get access to the largest newspapers out there like New York Times and Wall Street Journal.
Which have actually refused to work together, is what I read.
And I think that's credit to them for doing that.
So, I mean, yeah, you're right. This is just Apple trying to throw like everything at it and see what sticks. Which
it's New York Times that's not in there. Wall Street Journal is in there.
Yeah, it's like this is not an approach we're used to from Apple. I feel Apple has always been very focused, always very on point.
It feels chaotic.
And it feels chaotic, and this is something I would expect from different companies. Like Google is one that's like throw everything out there and we'll see what sticks. Like that's Google. But Apple, no, Apple is like, boom, look at this beautiful new device, and everybody is like, oh my gosh, this is like groundbreaking, and look at the beautiful thing, which it hasn't done
since the iPad.
Since the iPad, really, yeah. So. I think Apple is on the downswing.
That's a good way of putting it with this. And, the only one of these that you can actually buy today is Apple News Plus. Everything else is pending. So. All right. Our next piece of tech news does actually also deal with Apple, and you might not have heard about this before, but there has been a patent dispute in which it was said that Apple was under potential threat of import ban of the iPhones to the United States, believe it or not. This is in regards to Qualcomm launching a legal battle with Apple to try and get patents that Qualcomm apparently owns that they would use to cause an import ban on the iPhone. And one hit and one missed, apparently. The U.S. Trade Commission on Tuesday said that it invalidated a Qualcomm patent for a battery-saving feature, but earlier a separate trade judge said that Apple infringed on a different patent from Qualcomm and recommended that older models of iPhones be banned from the United States. A final decision on this case will be made in July. And these cases are between around 80 or so between the companies in the dispute, and these have been going on for around 2 years or so on this.
I'm not sure what older means, but given that the new devices haven't gotten a lot of uptake, like in their adoption, this sounds potentially pretty big.
Yeah, and I mean, do we ever think that in reality these would be the iPhones would be banned from entering the U.S.?
They're not gonna be. Watch Twitter so we can find out what the president has to say about it. And
Tim
he's
Apple?
really good friends with Tim Apple now, so it's gonna be worked out. It'll be fine.
Oh, Tim Apple! Oh, it's amazing.
Tim Apple, his buddy. Tim
What's the
Apple.
next one going to be? Sundar Google?
I mean, I agree with you, but you have to admit that Apple has always had a pretty good reputation. Like, I would say, like, they seem to get to, like, they have relatively few PR hits. And, you know, this, like, with the iPhone not going so well, and then this, and, like, these, like, what they announced not being fantastic, it feels like that reputation is sort of cracking and yeah, sort of peeling off, right? Like, things, it's not so sunny anymore at Apple headquarters, what it seems.
Yeah, I will agree with that. But you know, I don't ever see an iPhone being banned from the United States, so I think that this one will probably be settled before anything happens with it.
Well, good for Qualcomm.
Yeah,
Once they get a cut of that, what was it, $1 billion?
Yeah, something
Trillion?
like that. But,
a lot of money.
And for context, this is related to the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus. So old devices.
Which is still pretty big, right?
Yeah, yeah, they are. I think they still sell them. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So.
Oof.
All right. Next up, let's shed a tear for what's happening in the EU.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Where
Article
free speech
11
went
and
to die.
Article 13 were passed this week by a vote of 348 to 274. And just as a reminder of what these are, Article 11 was the link tax that would have made it so that people like
That
Google
is going to make it.
is going to make it. So people like Google need to pay a certain amount of money to original publishers, and Article 13 is colloquially known as the meme ban, which makes it so that if you host content, you need to run filters to ensure that nobody uploads any copyrighted
That's
material to your servers.
not quite. Article 13 basically says that if you're a platform that hosts material, you are responsible for all copyright infringement on that platform. Which is ridiculous. If you think about how much is being uploaded to YouTube every second, like there's hours of content being uploaded every second, right? Like if you upload a video which has on the background the latest song from Kanye or something like that, YouTube is responsible for that, which is really bad.
Bonkers.
So,
because there's no way of knowing, because I don't think machine learning is that good enough to identify what is copyright and what is not.
So yeah, so like because like the potential fines are really big, what you're gonna get is, so first of all, these because if you make a parody of a Kanye song, it's fair use, right? It's fair use.
Yeah.
But what these platforms are going to do is they're going to put the dial on being careful pretty high, and everything that's even remotely potentially copyright infringement is going to get taken down, and that's what the upload filter is. Which means that there's a bunch of stuff you can't do. And why this is called the meme ban is memes are not copyright infringement. They're parody, they're like, it's a fair use. But the problem is, if you make a meme based on a scene out of a TV series, how are you going to detect that that's not a screenshot, but a parody, like a meme use? And platforms are not going to have the technology to distinguish that. Like, that, I'm not sure if machines can distinguish that in the next few decades, because this is quite subtle. Like, not even legal experts can agree on whether a meme is fair use or not. So, you know, you can't leave that decision in the hands of a computer, and you can't do manual review on every single thing that's uploaded to Imgur or something like that. So, you know, it is a bit ridiculous, all this, and that's the worrying thing, and that's what people have been warning for, and somehow it's not been getting through to the people actually making the decision. But like the whole situation around this is pretty infuriating, because So ahead of the vote, so the link tax and the meme ban, or the upload filter, if you want to call them that, like Articles 11 and 13, they're two separate things. But they were voted on as one, which is a bit strange. And there was an amendment that was voted on ahead of time that proposed to vote on them separately. That lost with the minimum majority. I think it was like 2 or 4 votes.
This article says 5.
Right. So it turned out that a bunch, like, because of the voting process was so confusing, people, like, upwards of 10 people voted the wrong thing during that amendment vote. And the EU has a thing where people can correct their votes afterwards if it was wrong for, like, documentation, though it cannot influence the decision, which is strange. And if those corrections are taken into account, they would have been voted on separately, which might have had completely different consequences. So, this just shows what a mess it is. And
for me, it comes down to politicians not knowing what the hell's going on and being bought by interests as well, I would assume.
I mean, the lobbying around this was ridiculous. Like, sure, like, I'm sure Facebook and Google put millions of dollars into lobbying against this. And I'm not going to say that we should let Google and Facebook off the hook entirely. I just don't think this is the right solution. I agree we need a copyright reform, because copyright laws were written when the internet was not even imagined yet as a thing. But the current implementation is just bad. So they put like a lot of money into lobbying it. But there was also a lot of lobbying from the other side, from your classical media companies, like your record labels and all that stuff, to the point, and I'm not making this up, this is actually happening, to the point where members of European Parliament have been offered free concerts as a, I want to say, bribe for a vote in favor of Article 13. Now, in what world is that ethical?
It's not, and, unfortunately, that's just the way, and I say unfortunately because it works like that, except to a bigger degree in the U.S., and, it's not good, and, you look at what YouTube had to say about this. They called the final version of the directive an improvement, but they remain concerned that it could have unintended consequences that may harm Europe's creative and digital economy, and when you look at it, that's the entire truth of the matter. There is that if you're going after people for doing this, you are indeed stymieing creative juices and potential digital economy.
See, like, the media industry is one thing behind this, right? And another thing, so that's another interesting detail about these articles, is that companies that, earn less than 10 million a year or have existed for less than 3 years are exempt of these restrictions. Which makes no logical sense. Why are we not? So, like, the reasoning behind this is, like, the technology to do this upload filtering is expensive and cannot be afforded by smaller companies, so they are not responsible for copyright infringements on their platform. Which is the story they tell. The story I see is that, hey, we're just trying to find a way to limit the power of Facebook and Google and the like, which are American companies, and hopefully some EU company comes up and does this all right and fixes it. Like, that's always the fundamental problem that we have in the European Parliament. European Parliament is super cross with the fact that all the big companies are American and not European. I'm not even joking.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
So, like, if you look at the law, you will find things in it that is specifically there to spite the big tech giants. This is just a tech giant tax in the end, and it's gross, because I think they are achieving the opposite here, because they're like you said, like, if you now want to have a company, like, Google and Facebook can decide, okay, we'll just not make our stuff available to the EU. But an EU company never has this. Like, if I started a video streaming company, where would I now choose to start my company? In the EU or in America, where the laws are much less strict, and I can first grow my audience really big in an environment where the laws are not big until I have enough money to go to the EU. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm really angry. I'm round out angry over this gross misinterpretation of what the internet is and stands for by people who just don't know any better.
And that's one of the huge complaints about the EU, and why people see the EU is not working, why they see it as too heavy-handed. And, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, I think everybody who is on the internet who understands this is going to experience that. And with everything that's happening in the EU and in the UK and France and even in the Netherlands, there's lots of questions with young people about what the future of the EU is, and this isn't helping them. So when it's time to be smart, they're not being smart.
No, and... lobbying aside, like if you look at the companies that actually know what they're talking about, like Electric Frontier Foundation, for example, is a big one. Like I think EFF is one of the biggest sources of trustful information when it comes about the internet. I think you would agree.
Yeah.
They're against this.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That says a lot.
That says a lot,
yeah.
Right? Like we have a company in the Netherlands as well. It's Bits for Freedom, which is like it's along the same lines as the EFF. They released a massive statement, completely ripping all the arguments against, like in favor of this apart. Like, I am convinced that this has to do with something deeper than doing the right thing. So, it makes me very angry, and. It's not over yet. I think it still has to go past one more committee, but usually that's a rubber stamp. It has to be implemented by all member states. So member states might change some of the subtleties because the articles have to be translated in national law, which of course can be different. And furthermore, in May there are European elections, so there's always hoping that the voters will show with their votes what they think about this. Though, given how the turnout on these elections is usually not great, I doubt it will matter much.
All right. I think I've said all I need to say. Tanis, you good?
That's one way to make America great again.
All right.
You shittier.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. We'll leave it right there then. So with that being said, moving on into other things. This month we do have an April skill of the month. This will be the last skill of the month carried out under our current rule set and our current system. So head on over to rsbnb.com/skotm and sign up for this invention skill of the month. Should be an interesting one to train. And I'll also point out that we are still soliciting feedback on Skill of the Month's changes that will come into effect in May. To run it down quickly, 2 competitions per month instead of 1, each running for about 10 days. There will be also at most 1 combat competition, and miscellaneous activities could potentially be added to this. So head on over to rsbnb.com/forums to provide your feedback on this, and full documentation on this is linked in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com. All right, so starting off with some achievements of the week. We got Murovic with 99 farming on March 26th, Blindman0122 with 99 woodcutting also on the 26th, and Delta Blazing with 99 smithing on the 25th of March. Congratulations.
Cool. On March 23, we have 2 achievements. Young Sad Boy got 99 prayer, and the Quiver got 120 invention. Then moving on to March 22, we have 82nd Airborne getting 120 farming. I bet you'll like that, Shane.
Yes, I do.
And then finally on March 21, Blindman0122 got 99 fishing. Well done, everyone.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Good deal.
Bit condensed this week because we are recording this on the Wednesday. We do have a pick of the week, but just before we get to that, I'll just take a moment to remind everybody about our spring survey, which you can get redirected to if you head on over to update.rsbnb.com/survey. Every year we do one of these, and what we're aiming to do is just try and get a picture of our audience, get a picture of what you think of the podcast, a picture of where you think the podcast should go in the next 6 months to a year. So we would very much appreciate it if you would fill out our spring survey at update.rsbnb.com/survey. All right. So, pick of the week. I believe one of you guys has a pick of the week for us. Sirion?
I'm not sure if this is the one I originally intended, but I'm going to go for it anyway. So the pick of the week I have is it's going to be a set of games actually on Steam. It's the Divinity Original Sin series. It's I've been playing it quite a lot lately in co-op with a friend. It's a top-down RPG. It's a bit, you could compare it to something like Diablo, I guess, but it's much more story focused. I think the games are actually absolutely great in that they have, first of all, they have a great story and they have a great sense of humor. But second of all, they are long. There's a lot of content. I have 86 hours in the game right now, and we still haven't finished the main campaign. Like,
Holy cow.
It is really, really big, and it doesn't get old. It doesn't really get old, which is really impressive. It's turn-based combat, but the combat is really interesting, and you have a lot of cool sort of physics stuff where you have like different elements interacting with each other. So you can do some really cool stuff, such as like make oil spread like over the entire battlefield, and then like shoot a fire arrow in and blow all your enemies to bits. Like, if you're smart with some planning, you can do a lot of fun stuff, and it's a really good game. There's a lot of good humor in it as well. One of these sort of character traits you can get is that you can talk to animals, and animals always have something silly to talk to about. So, no, it is an hilarious quest. It's really game. It's really funny, and I'm really enjoying it. And we are currently playing Divinity Original Sin, the Enhanced Edition, which is the first in the series. I think we are about 3/4 on the way through. It's hard to say. And there's a sequel to this. It's Divinity Original Sin 2, which is apparently even bigger and longer and nicer. So, I'm looking forward to playing that. You can play the original in a 2-player co-op. You can play the second part in a 4-player co-op if you want, though you can also play it with 2 or 3 players. And I definitely recommend playing it with a friend, and because there's like some fun interactions you can do. But yeah, if you need a time sink with like a fun story and a lot of good jokes and humor and puns, a lot of puns as well, then
that makes sense now. That why you've chose that.
Give it a try. It's Divinity Original Sin, either the Enhanced Edition or Divinity Original Sin 2, whichever you prefer.
Alrighty, we'll have a link in that at the show notes at update.rsbnb.com. So what have we been up to this week? I'll start this off. Well, aside from playing with incense sticks, as I mentioned, I did get 100 dungeoneering because, I thought, hey, it's 500k away. That's a couple sinkholes or a couple daily challenges. So I did that just so I'd have access to that dungeon. But aside from that, just been money making. I currently am at 7 out of 12 masterwork trims. So that's progressing along nicely. Hopefully I'll have a few more of that by the time we record next week. But aside from that, not too much. So how about you, Tanis?
Well, I've been busy, but I've been doing all kinds of different stuff. So on the main, I've just been gathering a lot of farm runs, and then using my dungeon to gather more herbs and resources and stuff like that. And then I've also I replayed Morning's End Part 1 this week. That was fun, but I forgot how much I had to cuss at sheep and how much I hate sheep and screw sheep. Ugh. So, we're doing, I'm doing good though. I'm only like 2 quests away from Prif, and I have 3 skills yet to go to get the 75, but that's it. So it's pretty good for an alt.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. And you, Sirion.
I mean, busy as usual. So I've really turned into more of a casual player. But over the past week or 2, 3 maybe, I've sort of set the goal of finally getting my 115 dungeoneering, because I really want the access to the Adamu Cave, and most importantly the model out more. So I've been trying to do daily dungeoneering challenges. I'm currently 7.5 million XP away at 1-3 dungeoneering. So that's what I've mostly been doing. Yeah, that's it really. Pretty boring.
All right. Well, I believe that's a good note for us to end on, unless you guys have anything else you'd like to say before we close this one off.
Hang in there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense,
hot.
especially with everything. What? Stay hot?
Yeah, it's Firemaking.
Oh, alrighty. Well, with that being said, we'll see you next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. And in the meantime, if you want to join us in game, you can find us at Friends Chat, Bits Bytes, and we're also on Twitter at RSBANDB, where you can see the nibbles when we post them, as well as finding all of our Informer articles and more. So see you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.